city. Yeah, as Ian says, I'll play a song for you. This is called I Come From the North Country. I wrote it about a year and a half ago now.
Walked to school in the blistering cold, at the foot of the hills, with an army camp up the road. A couple years down the line and they declared war. Coming home at night, hearing all the local boys gone. I sit down on the tarmac, saluting as they marched on. Now the streets are quiet, just like they've never been. Stores shut down and no work at the factory. There's a lot of people now saying goodbye to their dreams. I come from the North Country. Downtown, when the winter came around, I'd meet friends in the tavern, taking turns to buy around. We'd toast this institution and sing about days gone by. Now times have changed, they're all moving away. Say there's nothing left, no reason to stay. Nobody comes down here no more, they only look from their up on the roof, I remember all the things I've seen. The feeling that nothing can touch you when you're in your teens. Well, mister, I guess nothing's as it seems. I come from the North Country. I come from the North Country.
I will do one more if you'd like to hear it.
Go on. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yes. This isn't. It's not. I'm afraid it's not very patriotic. It's not about patriotism, but it is another one I wrote. It's called Amy. Darling Amy, God I love her. She's a devil in disguise. She don't fear no God above her. Prefers a taste of spit and fire. I would bow down right before her. She could bring me to my knees, but the
grind don't last forever. She gon' die in ecstasy. She gon' die in ecstasy, yeah. Be courageous, be forgiven, be the air in every lung. Be the hero, be the villain, be the song that's never sung. But don't you ever be the darkness that takes my baby away from me. Tell the preacher he can have all but this one, 'cause this one's for you and me. Yeah, this one's for you and me, yeah. Acapella, archangel, misty eyes that never see. Choose sanctuary, choose danger, but don't choose the girl that always leaves. Don't choose the girl that always leaves, yeah. True companion, true misfit, true to life, but that's right-hand man. Guess I never had you figured. I was just a pawn in your plan. Just remember what I tell you. When it comes down, we all have to pay. Counts for nothing if you're a giver or taker. The Lord has his hand on you and me. The Lord has his hand on you and me, yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed that. Yes. Well, this is a talented family, so you're about to get another contribution from another one of Margo's grandchildren, this time Josephine Sillars. She's just back from being part of the Yes Festival tour all around Scotland, and she's had a lovely time. This is the granddaughter who's most interested in politics in the family. You wonder where she gets that from, eh? She loved listening to Margo, and she's currently studying at Glasgow University. So put your hands together for Josephine.
Cool. We're just setting up the piano and stuff. So while that's happening, can we get another round of applause for Roseanne Reid, because that was absolutely brilliant.
Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Can you repeat the question? You're not the boss of me now, you're not the boss of me now, you're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. You're not the boss of me now, you're not the boss of me now, you're not the boss of me now, and you're not so big. Life is unfair, so I just stare at the stain on the wall where the TV's been, but ever since you moved out, it's been empty.
called Boss of Me, and for those who don't know, it is a cover, and it was released as part of the soundtrack for a TV show in the 90s called Malcolm in the Middle. And I'm 100% certain they are not affiliated with the referendum. Are we having a good night so far? Yeah, well, we've got some really great things in store for you. And in case anyone's wondering why I'm wearing bright yellow, and I'd like to add that I'm not actually the weirdest dressed person in here. It is my Yestival Summer of Independence t-shirt from the Yestival tour, so I felt this is my last gig before the referendum, so I felt I had to wear it, just because. So this is the last song I'm going to do for you. It's one I wrote myself, and it's called History Makers, so relevant. We're not the bad guys in the stories, we just made a few mistakes. They'll call us history makers for the chances that we take. And even though I know it's getting harder to breathe, I'll keep my eyes wide open till it's time for us to leave. Oh, the bite is much worse than the bark, the future's looking twice as sharp, and I don't want to watch you go. No, I don't want to watch you go. But we won't make the same mistakes, cause every card won't be an ace. They'll call us history makers for the chances that we take. Oh, but your eyes look like wine, and I want to drown my sorrows. Your lips taste like life, and I want to get high. Your lips taste like life, and I want to get high. Oh, the fallen mountain pavements as their bodies lie in fragments, reminding us of all the times we tried to rule the world. Although it's getting darker, I still want to be the martyr. If only I weren't so afraid to close my eyes. But we won't make the same mistakes, cause every card won't be an ace. They'll call us history makers for the chances that we take. Oh, but your eyes look like wine, and I want to drown my sorrows. Your lips taste like life, and I want to get high. Your lips taste like life, and I want to get high. They'll call us history makers for the chances that we take. They'll call us history makers for the people that we break. They'll call us history makers for the times we scored the ace. They'll call us history makers for the chances that we take. Enjoy the rest of your night, and oh yes.
Our next act tonight can be fairly described as far-travelled. Citizen Smart, as he just enters on my right, has been touring Scotland, playing at Yes Hubs and streets and high streets all over Scotland. And tonight he's going to play his first hit of the campaign, which is a song he wrote, and he's now going to perform about Margo McDonald. Alan.
I'm just going to do it acoustically. Just to let you know, I actually personally knew Margo in two capacities. Well, obviously, I knew Margo in the same capacity as most people. I literally worked with her when I worked with her producer. I was her producer at Scottish Television. At the time, Jim won the 1980 by-election. So, I mean, Jim, Margo and I would go back to the fire station, was it, and discuss the issues of the day. At the time, for my sins, I was in the Labour Party. So, it was an interesting discussion. But I then, we both actually ended up in 1999 in the Scottish Parliament. I was the head of broadcasting, and Margo was at the time, SNP MSP. So it was a good wee reunion. But then when Margo got the boot out of the SNP, for whatever the political reason, it kind of left us slightly socially isolated. So She had the biggest parliamentary group in the entire parliament, was with the entire parliamentary staff. So, I was one of them. So this actually predates the Margo Mobile, but as soon as I saw the Margo Mobile initiative, I thought this song's for them. I wrote this because people did so many tributes to Margo and eloquent speeches and all this, and I thought, well, I can't match that, but maybe I could write a wee song. And it's interesting playing this song because for younger people who maybe only vaguely know Margo, just that nice woman who was a good MSP, they don't know her story, so it's kind of autobiographical. So I think particularly for younger folk who've just vaguely heard of the legend that is Margo McDonald, but it's obviously got a wee contemporary point as well. Oh, Goldman 1973, standing for the SNP. People said she had no chance, but by climbing every stair, knocking doors on every flare, Margo led them on a dance. Oh, and throughout her magic life her star had shone so bright. She stood for what was just and what was true. So on the 18th of September, with that ballot in your hand, mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo do? Referendum 79, Margo put in overtime. She was the heart of Scotland's cause. Labour's efforts were half-baked, Tories peddled fear and hate, backed up by that wrecking clause. Oh, and throughout her magic life her star had shone so bright. She stood for what was just and what was true. So on the 18th of September, with that ballot in your hand, mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo do? This one's for you, Jim. And she actually did say this. Goldman 1988, Jim was standing, he was great, had the Tories on the run. Told the poll tax to get stopped, called in Labour to wake up. Margo said it was Jim's turn. Oh, and throughout her magic life her star had shone so bright. She stood for what was just and what was true. So on the 18th of September, with that ballot in your hand, oh, mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo do? Oh, hippie journalist and friend, Margo's talents were immense. She was fun and yet profound. Oh, politicians from all sides, she would hector, she would chide, but with a charm that won them round. Oh, even Westminster defenders, she just said they were slow learners, that come round to Scotland's cause one of those days. So if you're angry and frustrated at some unionist debater, mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo say? Oh, independent MSP, representing you and me, Margo's spirit at the dawn. So with passion and delight, laced with humour and a fight, let us finish Margo's song. Oh, and throughout her magic life her star had shone so bright. She stood for what was just and what was true. So on the 18th of September, with that ballot in your hand, mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo do? Mind ask yourself, hey, what would Margo do? And we all know what that is. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. That was absolutely great. We're now moving to the top of our bill this evening, and you're in for an experience. This lady became an instant internet star at the start of the referendum campaign, and she's here to give us some true entertainment and a lot of fun. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Lady Alba.
I'm crying into my tea cakes. I've been doing a lot of gigs, but this is the most emotional I've ever felt, like, in the whole campaign. And my hair's, oh, I'm a mess, look at me. And yeah, I just, you know, it's an absolute privilege to play here tonight. Margo was, I mean, what a woman. She's inspired me, she's inspired so many people, and I think it's amazing that her message is still going to be heard throughout the campaign and beyond. So I'm going to play a few songs, or a couple of songs, which are fun comedy songs. And hopefully you'll like them. This first one is, you might recognise the melody. Jim might not, apparently he doesn't know who the Beatles are. So it's about an issue in the campaign which is quite big, quite expensive, and a bit of a waste of money, but hopefully we'll be getting shot with them soon. In the time when I was born, I left some weapons beside the sea. I was told about their lives in our yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. It's going to cost a bob or two to buy new missiles for me and you. You can't afford to feed the wings, but their priority is in fast lane. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. 100 billion of our pounds. Ignore the misery that's all around. Let's buy some nukes, prepare for war, while child poverty is 1 in 4. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. We all live in a yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. Yellow nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. So this next song was kind of inspired by Better Together, so I'd like to thank them for that. And it was actually inspired by Lord Robertson and the comments he made about, you know, if we vote yes, it'll be cataclysmic, and the forces of darkness will rejoice. So this is called Forces of Darkness, and it's all about kind of Better Together's vision of what will happen when we get a yes vote. The ballots have closed now, the people have spoken. The demons and gargoyles and orcs have awoken. Despite all our warnings, the yes vote's a winner. The gates have swung open to all of hell's sinners. It's cataclysmic, we're gonna win.
witness a rising evil. This will be lethal. Forces of darkness will feast on the carcass of our Scottish flesh and bone. The tectonic plates have begun rearranging as England and Scotland prepare for a breaking. The land rips apart, splitting brothers and sisters. The forces of magnitude 10 on the Richter. It's cataclysmic. We're gonna witness a rising evil. This will be lethal. Forces of darkness will feast on the carcass of our Scottish flesh and bone. No one can save us, not even John Smeaton. The power of Sauron's great eye can't be beaten. Communities crumble and Frodo has fallen. The end is upon us, hear we effing Gollum. It's cataclysmic, we're gonna witness a rising evil. This will be lethal. Forces of darkness will feast on the carcass of our Scottish flesh and bone. It's cataclysmic, we're gonna witness a rising evil. This will be lethal. Forces of darkness will feast on the carcass of our Scottish flesh and bone. To that guy that played the Imperial Death March. What a genius! Yeah. So, we're going to do one more song. Now, my name's Zara, and believe it or not, I'm a normal person, but I've got an alter ego who has quite different opinions to mine, and her name's Lady Alba. And unlike Zara, she's going to vote no. And this song explains why she's voting no. Weapons, I want student fees, I want a country run by Tory MPs. I'm going no. No, 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 I'm going no. I want a country that squanders its oil. I want its leaders to be rich as the royals. I'm going no. No, 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 I'm going no. You know that I want you kinda don't need you. I want it bad, your bad romance. I want your love even a bitch like I like being told what I should do. Why bother trying to make any decisions when Westminster can do it for you? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Caught in a bad romance. Whoa, whoa. Would be mental to try something new. Let's sit around and wait for things to improve. I'm voting no. No, 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 I'm voting no. Who gives a crap about the West Lothian question? Yeah, it's unfair, but baby, I like the tension. I'm voting no. No, 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 I'm voting no. You know that I want you kinda don't need you. I'm pure gagging for your bad romance. I want your love even a bitch and I like being told what I should do. Why bother trying to make any decisions when Westminster can Cause I like status quo. I'm voting no. I don't wanna be friends. Je vais voter non. Parce que j'aime status quo. Je vais voter non. I don't wanna be friends. 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 I want your love even if it's like I like being told what I should think. Why bother trying to make it into decisions when Westminster can do it for you? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Caught in a bad romance. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Caught in a bad romance. No, 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 no. Tony, no, 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 no. I'm voting no. No, 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 no. Tony, no, 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 no. I'm voting no. Hopefully that doesn't give you nightmares tonight. Sorry about that.
Well, I promised you a good night. I hope you enjoyed that. You'll have a story to tell all the friends that weren't here tonight tomorrow, won't you? Anyway, now we're moving to the serious part of the evening, and it's my pleasure to introduce, just before Jim comes on, Chris Stevens, who's the local polk organiser for the Yes campaign. I think he's going to say a few words just before Jim comes on. So if you're here, Chris, this is your moment. There you go.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ian. I do want to spend a bit of time thanking those who helped organise the Margo Mobile as it's travelled around Scotland. Perhaps to give you some stories of the Margo Mobile's visit while it's been here. I think it's helped to energise the campaign. I think it's helped take the Yes campaign to communities who are hearing the prophets of doom that we've just heard from the media and in particular the BBC. But it has been important to take this campaign into working class communities. The campaign has re-energised that, and I think that all political parties have to take note of that. When we were in Penally, there was quite a few amusing stories, and the tune that was getting played was Cap in Hand, and people were actually holding their posters and tune like that as the Cap in Hand music was playing. But I think one of the best stories was when Jim was giving a speech in Penally, and people were coming out to hear him, and there was a house round the corner who couldn't see the Margo Mobile. He was coming out and looking about as his voice. And one of our campaigners was around the corner and was talking to him like, I thought God was telling me how to do it. So hopefully she will. It's been excellent, the Margo Mobile. As I said, it's brought politics back to the people. I think it will be a huge turnout, and I hope it will be a huge turnout as somebody who in June looked up what the odds were, and an 85% turnout, which at that time was 12 to 1, so I made a wee investment in that. So I'm hoping that will too. Now, I knew Margo as I actually joined the SNP after Jim's Govan by-election win. It was the anti-poll tax campaign that made me join the SNP, and I think I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people of my generation, and I'm 41, I know I look older, but a lot of us who are in their early 40s now joined the SNP as a result of that campaign, and also knew Margo when she was in the Scottish Parliament. She was very good to me in terms of giving me advice, because the party were in a panic, because I was doing a live TV debate with John Reid, so it was Margo who taught me how to behave, during the debate. It's getting televised, how to look calm and always wait your turn. And of course on Thursday it's going to be Scotland's turn. So I knew Yes. I believe that Margo Margo would agree with me, and I know Jim certainly agrees with me. I'm yes to help working people to strengthen their rights, and I'm also yes to help people find work who don't have it, because the Westminster system has failed them. Collective bargaining in 1979, that's workers who get a pay agreed between trade unions and the employer, was 81% in 1979. Today it's 23%, and we wonder why we live in a low-wage economy. That's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is, what chance do working people have when employment law is decided by Westminster, where you only need to give 45 days notice to you as a working person to tell you you're getting made redundant? That's one of the main reasons that I'm for a yes vote, is to bring employment law and employment rights back to here. One of the most despicable acts the Tory government did is not just the bedroom tax, but to tell workers that if you're injured at work, you'll have to prove that it was their fault. Well, I'm sorry, see if you're working, or if you're a member of the public and there's an accident, accidents aren't waiting to happen. An accident at work isn't an accident. And also, the fact that you now have to go, if you want to go to an employment tribunal, you have to pay in order to get that heard. That is despicable. I want to thank again it's been very emotional for me in terms of someone who joined the SNP when I was 16 because of that man there, and I thank him most sincerely for that. It's been brilliant seeing Jim. It was brilliant seeing Jim Brown-Pennelly. I know the guys today thought it was brilliant seeing him round Ardenne, and I want to thank you all for listening to me. But I think you should show your appreciation for all the work that those who organised the Margo Mobile have done across Scotland. Thanks very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're now getting to the point where you meet the man that a lot of people have been talking about already this evening. This is the last public meeting of an enormous tour that Jim Sillars has made the length and breadth of Scotland. Without exception, I don't know anyone who's worked harder in this campaign to try and win Scotland's independence on Thursday night. He's a man of outstanding principle, a great public speaker, and someone I admire and am proud to call a very good friend. Jim Sillars.
Tell you what I've been doing. I've been going around Scotland stirring up the working class and telling you how good you are. Because my generation was told we're too wee and we're too poor. And according to Joanne Lamont, we're not genetically programmed to make political decisions in Scotland, so we're too wee, too poor and too stupid. That's not the case. One of the things Margo said to people was that you are better than you think you are. We have been trapped in a myth of our own inadequacy for generation after generation. I've been here before. I fought the 1979 referendum. And I was talking to terrified audiences. This was just for an assembly, by the way, with no power whatsoever. There was people got on a train at King's Cross. When the train to Edinburgh, when it passed Berwick, they put customs officers' uniforms on and went round demanding everybody's passport, because that's how it would be if we voted yes. I stood outside Govan Shipyard. That was the days when the men went for a pint at half-time. And I was there with George Cunningham, who was one of these Anglo-Scots, sat for a London constituency. And he told the men then, if you vote yes, we'll stop you building warships. Now this was big men of the Clyde. And I thought they'd put the heat in them. But they didn't. The heads went down, the feet began to shuffle. They were terrorised. The Daily Express, which was a very large circulation newspaper in those days, just before the vote, wrote a leader, "If you vote yes, what will happen to Linwood, Ravenscraig, Bathgate, the mining industry and the shipbuilding industry?" Well, they're all gone except shipbuilding. The difference is this. In 1979, 25,000 people were employed in shipbuilding. Today, it's 3,500. So I've been here before, but there's a difference this time. We've had, in the last 2 years, the development of the greatest civic movement Scotland has ever seen. Thousands of people. Organised centrally by anybody. It has happened spontaneously throughout Scotland. The great strength of the Yes campaign is that it's based locally. People everywhere got together. Some have been in political parties, many of them never engaged in the life before, and they've created local Yes campaigns and engaged, and the people have engaged with them. It's not just been a civic movement. It's been a civic movement that has been a self-educational movement for everybody in Scotland. They keep saying we don't get enough information. I haven't found that in any of the meetings I've addressed anywhere throughout Scotland. One of the problems of Cameron, Brown and Darling, when they tried to frighten us this time, it's different from 1979. Without question, we are the best politically educated people to be found anywhere in Europe, if not the world, and we should be proud of what we've done and what we are achieving. I want to tell working class audiences, why in future, now the light bulb's going on in everybody's head and it's not going to be switched off, why don't you think of standing for the first independent parliament in 2016? We've put up with a new political elite, gone to university politics, research for an MP or an MSP, and then become a parliamentarian. Nay experience whatsoever. Every working class person in here has gone through the mill. We've all been skint. We know what it's like to be halved up, bring up wains with measles and all the rest of it, have family problems. We are the recipients of more knowledge than any of the political elite who try to lead us at the present time. And I have a challenge for working class people. Don't stand back any longer and say, maybe I'm no as good as them. I left Ayr Academy without a single certificate to my name. They regarded folk like me in Ayr as coming from what they called the dross on the other side of the river. The rector put me in front of his desk as I left and told me I would never make anything of myself. And had I believed that, I never would. I was arrogant enough to say, that's not true, I'm as good as you. And I want you, the working class people, after we voted no, to start thinking of going into leadership positions to ensure that we mobilise the working class in Scotland. Because if we mobilise, we become very important people from the 19th of September onwards. Very important people. We are the majority in Scotland. And if we mobilise and we draw leadership from that mobilisation, we're talking about a working class majority in the first Holyrood Parliament and a working class government drawn from that majority, delivering policies for the working class in Scotland. My generation, let me tell you, failed. When I came out the Navy in 1960 and joined the Labour and Socialist movement, my generation had an ambition. It was to shift the balance of wealth and power to the Scottish working people and the families. That's what we wanted to do, create a more egalitarian and equal society by a better distribution of the wealth of our country. We failed, and the failure, the proof of failure, is staring us in the face. We're the 14th richest country in the world. There's 5 million of us. 1 million of that 5 million, including people in work, are living below the poverty line. That's failure. 250,000 children in Scotland, among 5 million people, are living in poverty. 1 in 9 of our children are living in extreme poverty. That means they're born to fail in life. Dr. Harry Burns, who was the Chief Medical Officer for the whole of Scotland, has done a tremendous amount of research, as has been done worldwide. And what that research shows, that from the womb, not from birth, but from the womb to the age of 3, is the decisive period in a child's development. If they're born into poverty, they're handicapped in education and they're handicapped all the way through their adult life. We cannot allow that to continue to happen in our society. I don't have any personal ambition. I have a corporate ambition for the Scottish working people. I want a society in which no child is ever born to fail. We owe every child in Scotland the opportunity of a full life inside their own country. Someone said to me, just think about it, Jim. Maybe in one of the deprived areas, there's a child with the potential intellectual capability of discovering the answer to a particular cancer. That child will never know it, and society will never benefit from it. We've got food banks. I was a child during the war, when the Germans were sinking half the amount of stuff coming over to this country. No one starved and no one was destitute. Today we've got sanctions against unemployed people. I thought sanctions were for the Saddam Husseins of this world. But it's sanctions against working people. If you're late for the job centre interview, you're sanctioned. No money. How do you feed the Wains? You go to a food bank. Now, the people who run the food banks deserve credit, but we should be ashamed of the fact that in the 14th richest country in the world, we've got people who have to go to food banks to feed their children. That's our responsibility to end that. Now, Cameron is up this week, and he's telling us, if you vote yes, you'll never be able to come back. Who the hell would want to come back in the first place? Last week, he was telling us from Edinburgh that getting rid of the Tories was me a good reason for voting yes. I can't even think of a better one. At the last election, we sent 59 MPs down to Westminster. One of them was a Tory. So how come 1 out of 59 we end up with a Tory government? It's quite simple, really. We're 5 million in a UK of 60 million. 5 million up here, 55 south of the border. And if they vote for the Tories, that's what happens to us at the end of the day. I believe that when we vote yes, that when we mobilise the working class people, and they're presented with a coherent programme of what we actually can achieve. We can transform our society. One of the things Margo said was that out of self-respect comes self-confidence, and out of self-confidence comes imagination and innovation, and the whole world opens up to us with independence. I was never always in favour of independence. I was elected in 1970 in a by-election in South Ayrshire as a British Unionist, and I believed it until I got down to Westminster and I realised they couldn't deliver for the Scottish working class that I came from. But it was a long journey for me, from unionism to independence. And everybody in here who's a Labour voter, you haven't got the 12 years that it took me to reach that particular time. You've a couple of days. And if there's any Labour voter in here worried about the party, let me explain that independence is for the Labour Party as well as everybody else. Because one of the great problems of the Labour Party in Scotland is got Middle England on its back. Even when it wants to do things, it can't do. Do you remember the Grangemouth dispute? When one man threatened 5 million people to cut all our energy, our fuel energy off. I watched the statement in the House of Commons on television, and one after another, left-wing Labour MPs got up and they brought themselves to the point of saying, if he means that, we'll nationalise it. But they couldn't use those words because it was unacceptable to the front bench who were fishing for votes around Middle England. So we're going to release the Labour Party from the chains that bind it to those south of the border at the present time. Although, mind you, it'll be a long time before I forget that photograph of Joanne Lamond grinning outside the Asda at the thought of them putting up prices for poorer people. I've been criticised for what I said about BP, the banks and the businessmen. I don't take back a single word. Yeah. The chief executive of BP deliberately distorted the facts of Scotland's oil wealth by concentrating only in the depletion rate in the North Sea. He said nothing about the monster field, and that's the term the industry used, in the Cairn Ridge, 75 miles west of Shetland, where there's more oil likely to be discovered. And he said nothing about the oil and gas that's under the Firth of Clyde. You know, in 1981, they knew there was oil and gas under the Clyde. Yep, let me read something to you. After the 30-year rule, these documents have become available. This is an official government document. In 1981, 3 companies, BP, Britoil's Forerunner, BNOC and Horizon, undertook seismic surveys in an area south of Arran and east of Kintyre. Although the results have not been disclosed, the data gained led BP to apply for a production licence in the summer of 1981. The company applied for a very extensive area covering the entire breadth of the Firth south of Arran. That production licence number was PL 262. Why did it not take place? That was in the summer of 1981, because on the 17th of September 1981, in the autumn, a man called Roger Mansell wrote to the Department of Energy, and he said that no rigs under any circumstances are to be in the Firth of Clyde. No development of oil and gas, no rights. He wanted the nuclear submarine there to be able to sail without any navigation problems whatsoever. Mark that date, 1981. That was when Thatcher's government was destroying the industrial and engineering base of the west of Scotland. And offshore, there was a new industry waiting to be born they kept secret from us. And if anybody's worried about jobs for their children and their grandchildren, vote yes and try it. If it's going to stay there for 5 years before it goes, I'll have to get a better sat-nav system than it's got.
Yeah!
Glasgow should be the Aberdeen of the West. And I'll tell you the difference. There was a young man at Patna in Ayrshire last week, got up in the meeting, and he says, I'm from Ayrshire, I'm an electrician. Can I get a job here? I work in Aberdeen, where I get, and I'm at the bottom level of the scale, he said, given my age, I get £16.50 an hour. You know, compare that with £6.31, that's the norm for so many people in Glasgow and the west of Scotland. It needn't be like that. We're not going to wait 5.5 years to develop that industry. It means building rigs. It means building supply vessels. It means onshore and offshore high-quality engineering. And when McCall bought Ferguson's yard down the Clyde, he kent what he was doing. This has been a remarkable campaign for the lies and deception that have been told to the Scottish people. Let me quote that man who says he's come back into frontline politics, Gordon Brown. As my brother said to me, but is he not getting paid as an MP to be in frontline politics anyway? This is what he said in the Daily Record last week, attacking the SNP on the NHS. There is no power outside Scotland that can impose NHS privatisation in Scotland. I use my words advisedly. He must have known that was a blatant lie. And I'll tell you why. When you legislate in Westminster, you first introduce a bill, and that bill carries government sponsor's name. And among that sponsorship are senior figures like him, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So he was a signatory to the bill that became an act. And they inserted, the Labour government with Brown as Chancellor, they inserted into the Scotland Act section 28, subsection 7. Remember that. And this is what it says. This section does not affect the power of the Parliament of the United Kingdom to make laws for Scotland. Because devolution is an illusion of power. Real power always rests at Westminster unless we're independent. And they can do anything they like with us at any time using that power, which is the superior power. They've already used it. They transferred 6,000 square miles of Scottish North Sea waters to English jurisdiction without asking anybody in Scotland.
Donald Stewart. Yes, Donald Stewart.
Donald Stewart, Blair and Brown. So when the Japanese gophers go up to St Andrews and they're not very good and they slice a ball into the water, they're not slicing it into Scotland anywhere, they're slicing it into England. That's how extensive that sea steel actually was. Down south, they are privatising the National Health Service. They are engaged with the EU in a trade agreement with the United States. And part of that trade agreement is The Americans, and so with us with them, must have access to a market as of right. If we are part of the United Kingdom, we are part of the UK market. You can't have a wee bit of the market untouched. And the reason they're privatising down there is to create a market in the NHS. And if we say no, we'll be taken to the tribunal under that agreement, and we'll be forced to privatise the NHS. So there's a double whammy awaiting for us. Down south, they're privatising, and we're being asked to believe that they actually wouldn't do it. I don't trust them. The only way we can keep the National Health Service safe in public hands is a vote yes on the 18th. Because when we're independent, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Only we could touch our own NHS, and there's no danger in an independent Scotland of us ever engaging in the kind of privatisation that's happening south of the border. Then we've got the businessmen, the bankers. My God, we're supposed to believe the bankers. They're crooks, never mind comic singers. And I'll tell you why they're crooks. It wasn't that long ago that they fixed the London interbank lending rate. Now that might seem a technical matter, but when they fixed it, they made not millions, but billions illegally and got away with it. We saved them in their casino banking, and we're asked to believe that when RBS and everybody else says, woe unto us if Scotland goes independent, we the bankers are saying it's a bad thing. Well, if you're saying it's a bad thing, I'm going in the other direction.
Yeah!
Then there's the Brown argument about powers. That's a fraud. And I'll tell you why. Again, I've been there in the 1970s. Scotland cannot take more powers except by independence. We cannot take more devolution powers because the legislation has to pass through the House of Commons, where we are in a tiny minority. And we've already had William Hague authoritatively in the House of Commons saying more powers is not the policy of that government. And do we really believe that all the English MPs are going to vote to give us more powers? Brown and Company are given the impression that we just declare what we want and we get. That's not the case. They give and we receive. And if they don't give, we cannot receive. So it's a tragedy watching what's happened to the Labour leadership telling lies on behalf of a Tory government. Unbelievable. Now, I said that we are important people right up to the 18th, us for the working class. From the 19th on, we are very important people. We have to take power ourselves. On the 18th, between 7 AM and 10 PM, 15 hours, a wonderful thing happens to us. When we pick up that wee bit of paper, we are sovereign for the first time in the Scottish nation's history, with all the power required over our country. Our ancestors didn't have the vote 300 odd years ago. We have it now. And that vote is powerful. If at 1 minute past 10, we voted no, we give it away and virtually become a region of England. But if at 1 minute past 10, we have voted yes, all those powers we had in 15 hours remain in Scotland forever. And that makes the working class very important people. Because are the majority. We are now politically educated. We understand economics, politics, and social policy. And we can create a parliament and a government that works for us. Think of the energy. Think of the history of the Scottish working class. In 1915, the women in Glasgow went in a rent strike to defend the standard of living of a family. And that's how it's been ever since. Defend ourselves, trying to defend, always in a defensive posture against unemployment, against cuts to benefits, against industrial closures, against the poll tax, now against the bedroom tax. All our energy as a class used up trying to defend ourselves. Cut the connection with Tory England and we'll use that energy to advance our cause with policies that we vote for, not policies someone imposes upon us. Full employment should be the ambition of the Scottish working class. Not utopian, can be had. And the reason it's important to the working class is that all we have is our labour to sell in the labour market in order to live. If we have 100 workers chasing one job, the workers' bargaining power doesn't exist. But if one employer is chasing 100 workers, the balancing power is on our side. That's why full employment should be the driving ambition of the new government that we'll create in an independent Scotland. I've been involved since 1960 in Scottish public life. Now, the human condition is such that tears flow down the human cheeks. But there are necessary tears and there are unnecessary tears. The necessary tears happen when there's deaths, accidents, something happens to a child, circumstances. When the tears flow, no government has the power to stop them or to stop what made them flow in the first place. But there are unnecessary tears flowing down Scottish cheeks at the present time. When an old person sits in her house and starts to cry at the threat that she should get out because she's got a spare room, or a woman sits down and cries because she can't feed her children, or a man or a woman are humiliated, disabled persons are humiliated in that organisation called ATOS, when they cry, when a disabled person has their benefits cut and they cry, these are unnecessary tears flowing down Scottish cheeks. And our ambition should be, never ever again will any unnecessary tear flow down a Scottish cheek, because we're going to vote yes, and we're going to change our country for the better. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Hope you all enjoyed that. We'll have some time for questions. Specifically, want those who are still undecided to ask questions first. Anybody would like to ask Jim a question?
What about currency?
Yeah. The currency position is this. Nobody can stop us using sterling. Sterling is what the economists call an international tradable currency. In other words, it's used worldwide. Like the euro. I mean, if we go to Spain, we never think of phoning up the central bank in Frankfurt and saying, excuse me, can we use euros? It's an international tradable currency. when that Japanese golfer comes here, he doesn't phone George Osborne and say, can I use sterling? Nobody can stop anybody in the world using sterling. That's different from a currency union. A currency union is when two countries come together in a treaty and agree how they will operate the currency between them. Now, Alex Salmond has said, and I think quite rightly, I don't agree with a currency union, I'll come to that in a minute, but quite rightly, Alex Salmond has said that a currency union is in the interests of England, Wales and Northern Ireland, even more so than it is in Scotland's interest. And the reason is this: the rest of the UK imports far, far more than it exports, finds it very difficult to pay its way. It's got a constant balance of trade and balance of payments deficit. We contribute to that at the moment round about £45 billion a year from our exports. If Scotland becomes independent, that £45 billion is removed from the benefit of their position, and they will be exposed as a country in serious condition. When they thought that we would all cave in, and it would be 70% no and 30% yes, they thought they were being very clever and saying no currency union. Well, you know, on Thursday night, we'll all be sitting up, waiting to see what happened. There's two others that are going to sit up to wait to see what happened. The names are George Osborne and Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England. Because on Friday morning at 8 o'clock, the international markets open. And the international markets are going to say, you said there was no currency union, you lose that 45 billion straight away, and not only that, because there's no currency union, the independent Scotland will not pay its share of the debt. They've made that perfectly plain. So where is your plan B?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if in the early hours of Friday morning when we get a yes vote, Alex Salmond actually gets a telephone call saying, I think we should have a chat. Now, I prefer a separate currency because, as Alex said, there are alternatives. I prefer a Scottish currency linked one-to-one with sterling, so that if you go into your purse just now, you'll pull out a Scottish pound note. So that would be the case, only we would print them rather than get them printed under licence from the Bank of England, and it'd be worth £1 English pound. The reason I'm in favour of that, I don't want the Bank of England to have anything to do with us at all, because they're centred in London and the South East. Also, because we export more than we import, we would draw in massive foreign currency reserves, yen, euros, dollars and sterling from our trading. So our separate currency would be underpinned by substantial foreign currency reserves. But I accept, I mean, a policy difference between Alec and me, but I accept Alec has convinced the Scottish people that we should go for a currency union. So what I would think would happen, if they're still obdurate and willing to cut their own throats, we use sterling for a couple of years. And if in that time they're still wanting to cut their throats, then we can start to set up our own central bank and move to our own currency. It's actually in our hands what we do. Somebody was arguing at the Edinburgh Book Festival about what we would call it. And I was on with this economist, Gavin McCrone, who was saying the dollar, the pound, the mer. I said, I don't care what you call it, as long as the workers get married.
Anyone else? Anyone else got a question? Undecided first? No, any undecided first? Okay, or somebody over there. Yep, sorry.
Who actually owns the bank that's moving to London?
Right, no. Actually, this is a very good question because it illustrates what happens when they engage in the fear campaign. The Royal Bank of Scotland is owned 80% by us, and we are entitled to 8.9% of that ownership as Scotland.
But why are they sending it down south?
They're not, and this is the point. They've deliberately given you the impression that the Royal Bank is moving. It isn't. What they're doing is they're moving their legal headquarters So actually all that's moving is the brass plaque that goes up in Scotland down to a place in London where they've already got actually banking premises. And it's very interesting. Alex Salmond was being interviewed in Good Morning Scotland. And the interviewer said the same as you, but the Royal Bank is moving. And Alex said, wait a minute, I've got a letter from the chief executive to the employees. And she said, you can't read that letter out here. And he said, oh, I'm going to read it out. Because what that letter said to all the Royal Bank employees, this is just a technical move. No jobs in Scotland are moving anywhere. But they tried to give you the impression that the Royal Bank was moving. Same with Standard Life. Oh, we're off. Do you know that Standard Life's spending £70 million in the centre of Edinburgh right now, building new offices for themselves? So, you know, are they going to move that south as well? This is the great fear campaign in which they have engaged against the Scottish people, like the prices. Now, why should Asda have more distribution costs than Tesco's, or Aldi, or Lidl? They're German companies. They're bound to have bigger distribution costs than the rest. They haven't said a word. And to the credit of British Gas, today it made sure that it met all its employers or employees and said, if Scotland votes for independence on Thursday, nothing changes as far as we are concerned. We'll continue to operate in Scotland and you will continue to be employed. Why? Because they make money in Scotland. No business has ever left a place where it makes money. The fear factor has not worked this time. We are far too intelligent. Come on, up here. Let's vote yes. Let's be independent and never again have a millionaire, toff, Tory Prime Minister come up and tell us what to do. Get lost.
Yeah, gentleman there.
Well, I find it remarkable that the Labour Party, which was born to defend the interests and the cause of the working people, have actually lined themselves up with the bankers. And that's to their eternal shame. It really is.
Yourself, yeah. And if there's anyone else, if they could indicate just now, please. Yep.
Well, I'm Swedish. I've been here 23 years now. You were actually the very first person I've ever heard speaking about independence. I'm absolutely delighted that you close to the circle for me personally to listen to you tonight. So I'm very delighted. But I'm out canvassing, I'm knocking doors, I'm speaking to people, and I've got a problem, and I'm looking for some advice from you, because as an EU member, I don't have an emotional attachment to the word UK or Great Britain. All my emotional attachment is with Scotland. But I'm speaking to people and they're saying, I like being part of UK, I like feeling British. I've got no answer for them because I don't even get what they're saying to me. Now we have 3 more days left to knock on these doors. And do you have anything I can say that I can feel attached to? Because I don't.
Now, I can understand some of the older generation having an affinity to what we call the British connection. I was brought up in the British labour movement, the British trade union movement, and during the war. I understand that. But I think we've got to say to them, yes, we understand that, but you realise what the cost is. The cost is 1 million of us living in poverty. The cost is 250,000 of our children living in poverty. The cost is food banks. Are you really happy that your emotional attachment will continue to condemn those children and those folk who are living in poverty, just because you feel an emotional attachment to something actually that has long ceased to exist.
Yep.
I remember 1945, let me tell you, as a wee boy about 8, and the word come through in the wireless that it was a Labour government. And my father dashed down the steps. We lived in the 4 in the blocks, just as Mrs. Logan, the miner's wife, come out for her house, and they danced, literally danced up and down the path. Something wonderful had happened to them. The 1930s would be no more. Wee boy that I was, I kent something exciting and important had happened in our life. So I've got an emotional attachment to the Army government, let me tell you. My great hero isn't a Scot. My great hero is an Iron Bevan. That's my hero. But that has disappeared a long time ago. What people have to realise that what's represented as Britain now is Blair and Cameron and Clegg. It's changed. And Thatcher. It's changed completely. They're in love with something that no longer exists. And I think you've got to say to them, the game's up as far as that's concerned. But do you really want your grandchildren to be forced to move out of Scotland, as 30,000 a year are forced to move to Canada, Australia and New Zealand because you're in love with a past that no longer exists? I think you've got to put them that way.
But about 15 months ago they built a brand new global building development centre in Old Kilpatrick, that's where I work, and it was owned by Alex Salmon, and that cost £15 million. And in the past 5 years my company's turnover has gone from 12 billion to 26 billion pounds. That's globally. We've been building out a lick constantly for the past 4 years. The Clearfield Ridge that we built on, is a massive field. The oil that we're talking about is enormous. The fact that the panic is coming from Westminster is the fact that and the fields that they're talking about, we have 25 years as a minimum expectation of oil. They have 3 days left of that oil.
We've been in a prison of lies since the first drop landed in our soil. Do you know that they set up a special account called the North Sea account so that the oil would never count in the Scottish accounts, so that the fish that swam around in the North Sea and landed at Peterhead come into our accounts, but the oil that flowed past the fish and landed, that's a separate account. Gavin McCrone in 1974, he was the chief economist for the Scottish Office. He wrote a secret document for ministers, and his conclusion was that if Scotland was independent, we'd be richer than Switzerland or as rich as Switzerland. And one of his conclusions was that this time, because of the oil, it would be in Scotland's economic interest to repeal the Act of Union. We knew nothing about that until about a couple of years ago. That was kept secret from us as well. Now that's a bad thing. But what was worse, at that time Labour, Tory and Liberal MPs went round our country telling us, forget about the Isle, it'll run out in 10 years, you can't put all your eggs in that basket. There was a woman called Janie Buchan, who was a major figure in the Labour Party in Glasgow, a member of the European Parliament, who went on television and said, it can't be Scotland's oil because we didn't put it there. Now, for the last 15 years of my working life, I worked in the Arab world, particularly the Gulf. And when I told my Arab friends this, they laughed and said, we didn't pit it there either. We know that
There's a lady there, and then Rosie, so we'll be time for 2 questions, yeah?
Yeah, I was a theatre when the production thing was going on, and I kid you not, a gut-wrenching fear that if we wake up on Friday and it is a no, we will never, ever, ever get another opportunity. Ever. They will not let us.
No, they will never get. See, for us to have this referendum, Westminster had to agree. We didn't have the power to have a referendum because we are a devolved administration. Sovereign power over the Constitution lies at Westminster. They thought they would squish it. So they have lent us that power to hold a referendum up until 10 o'clock on Thursday. Then the power reverts to Westminster. They thought there was no bother. They would come up here and engage in Project Fear. We would all run away, and that's the end of the game. They've learned a different lesson. And I can tell you now, if we vote no, there will never, ever be a referendum again, because they'll not take that risk. By 2016, I'll tell you now, if we're still in the UK, and we've had the punishing cuts that are to come, you'll be hard pushed to find anybody that voted no, because they'll all, and us, will bitterly regret it. And if they say we need another referendum, down there they'll say, you had your chance, get stuffed. That's why we've got to vote yes on Thursday.
There was a man in radio the day and he said that the only thing the Yes camp is offering is hope. And that was supposed to be a thing that condemned us, that we were offering hope. I don't think there is any greater thing to offer as a gran, as a mother. I don't think there is a greater thing that I've been gifted my children, I would hope, for all of their lives. And I think that we've been a bit blindsided by talks about currency and even oil and everything else. I think at the end of the day, and we all get annoyed at our politicians and we all get annoyed at Westminster. We get annoyed about the bedroom tax, about the benefits, about the food banks, and there isn't really anywhere to do anything about it. If you bring politics home, geographically, psychologically, the power comes closer to you, and when you are narked with them, you can go and you can get them. They become accessible and less transparent. For that reason alone, bring your politics home so you can reach them, and more important, so they can reach you. So let's give hope and bring it home. It belongs to you. Don't hand it back. Don't.
Yep.
Just agree with what you were saying, Jim, about not getting another referendum. Getting back to the earlier when the light bulbs get on and the vote is switched off. We know what's coming to us now if we vote no. We're voting for the future, for future generations. And what we can give those future generations on Thursday with a stroke of a pen, if it's a no, they'll have to fight for it in future generations. I think we should give our future generations what they need, and Thursday with a stroke of a pen.
Right. Well, I'm beyond the argument of hope. I'm in the world of certainty. There's a book I've written at the back of the hall there. Take one, no want any money for it. I want folk to read it. It's called In Place of Fear 2. Because the first In Place of Fear was written up by that hero of mine, Aneurin Bevan. And what Aneurin Bevan said was that for socialists, the most important instrument in their armoury was audacity. The audacity to think the way the establishment tell you you can't think, and to do what the establishment tell you you cannot do. That's what we are going to employ when we go for independence and beyond that to the first election. That book of mine was written for the working class. It produces a coherent programme of what we actually can do No utopian, no nirvana, what Margo called sensible socialism. We're 5 million people in a capitalist world of 7 billion. Stalin couldn't create socialism in one country, neither can we. But what we can do, we can inject our socialist principles and socialist action where we can be effective on behalf of the working people. And I hope everybody gone will take a book and read it. Because that's not about hope, that's about how we're actually going to do it. I would like to end, this is a night I hope would commemorate Margo. And let me tell you, it hasn't been easy for me on the Margo mobile, because I haven't had time to mourn my wife. Margo instructed me that because her health had taken her out of the campaign, it wasn't to take me out of the campaign. And I re-entered the campaign the night of her memorial service in Edinburgh. I went to Wester Hales and started again. And you have no idea how I miss her when I go home to an empty house. But her words, I've been determined, are going to be heard in this campaign. What Margo had to say when she was alive is as relevant today after her death. And I would like to end the last public meeting of the campaign and dedicate it to my team. I'm on there on the mic, but I can only be on the mic because I've got a team helping me to get there and stay there and sustain me. And I'd like to end this meeting, the last of my public meetings, with an inspiring quote from Margo McDonald. This is our time of reckoning. We've got to take it, and if we don't take it, we are consigning our children to much less than we've had. To narrow horizons, lower aspirations, we are consigning our children to being small when we should be giving them a much bigger world in an independent Scotland. That's the achievement we'll get with a yes vote on Thursday. Thank you.
Enjoyed our almost end of term party. We have one final surprise for you this evening, a song from a member of the Margo mobile team. It comes from a girl called Mary Black. She's 19. She had a crucial role in the Margo Mobile Committee because being 19 she managed to bring our collective ages just below the bus pass age. If she had been 22, we'd have had to look elsewhere. But last Saturday at an event in Paisley, she surprised us all by turning out to be a rather good singer. So we thought it would be appropriate for one of our own from the Margo Mobile Committee to end this evening. Come on, Mary, give us a song.
Hello. Oh God, that's loud. No, I feel as though I should also point out that that social event Ian's talking about, he had actually left by the time I started singing. So I've told him that he's only going by the opinion of his wife, and a wife who had been drinking. So we'll see how this goes. But, I never had the privilege of knowing Margo personally. I only knew the same principled and intelligent and inspiring politician that most folk my age knew, but I have had the privilege of being part of the Margo Mobile campaign. So I just want to take a wee moment to thank everybody who's let me be part of that. Heather, who's organised everything the whole way through. Jonathan, who's had the patience of a saint as a driver. Frank, who unfortunately can't be here tonight. Ian, for keeping us all laughing. And most importantly, Jim, for giving me the chance of a lifetime. And when I lose, I will never forget it. Well, thank you. I've not got any of my own songs, so I'll just sing one that everybody knows. And I'm pretty sure on Friday will be more of an anthem than it already is. I've been telling old stories, singing songs, made me think about where I came from. That's the reason why I seem so far away today. Oh, well, let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. California, now I'm going. If I should become a stranger, it will make me more than sad. Caledonia, everything I've ever had. I have moved, I've kept on moving. I've proved the points that I needed proving. I have lost the friends needed losing, found others on the way. I have kissed the ladies, I've kept them crying. Stolen dreams, yes, there's no denying. I have travelled hard, sometimes with conscience flying, somewhere in the wind. Oh, well, let me tell you that I love you. I think about you all the time. California, now I'm going. If I should become a stranger, it would make me more than sad. California, in everything I've ever had. I'm sitting here for the fire, the empty room and the forest quiet. The flames are couldn't get any higher. They were there, now they're gone. I'm steady thinking, my way is clear. I know what I will do tomorrow. The hands are shaking, the kisses flow. I will disappear. Oh, let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. California, you're calling me, now I'm going. If I should become a stranger, it would give me more than sad.
So give yourself a hearty round of applause. Great night. Thank you very much.